Okay, and we're about 92 participants at this point, so why don't we go ahead and get started? So first of all, good morning and welcome to our November 2022 Middle Mile Advisory Committee. This is the last meeting of the year. Therefore, today's presenters will focus on providing you an update since our last meeting, but in addition, they're going to highlight the past year's accomplishments. We've had a lot of progress on this effort, and we wanted to make sure that we ended strong before we have our next meeting in 2023. I also want to highlight that thanks to AB 2256, which was authored by our own Assembly Member Quirk Silva, in January 2023, we will be welcoming 2 new local government officials as members. One will be appointed by the Senate Rules Committee, and another will be appointed by the Speaker of the Assembly. So we look forward to welcoming them. The first order of business is roll call, and so we'll go ahead and Mr. Pizzabella, will you please call roll?
Yes, and I'll provide a few housekeeping items up front. Attendees, please note there's time allocated at the end of the meeting for public comment. Presenters, please cue Anne to advance your slides. And committee members, please use the raise your hand feature on Zoom to cue the chair to call on you to speak. Now, committee member roll call. Chair Bailey Crimmins.
Here.
Commissioner Houck. President Reynolds.
Here.
Chief Deputy Director Miller. Chief Deputy Director Keever. Secretary Tong.
Here.
Senator McGuire. Assembly Member Quirk Silva. Assembly Member Wood.
Here.
Madam Chair, we do have a quorum, and we will have additional members joining in a few.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Pizzabella. So are there any committee members who'd like to provide some brief comments, as this is the last meeting of the year before we get the presentations and the formal updates? If so, if you just raise your hand. All right, I see none, so let's go ahead and get started. Mr. Monroe, we will go ahead and get an update, an executive report out. Please go ahead and get started.
Yes, good morning, members. Glad to have this chance to at the last MMAC meeting of the year to be able to talk through the status of the MMBI project, and we'll kind of cover. We made some good progress this year. So we're kind of excited about the status of things. We're gonna we'll start this morning by presenting a map that overlays the more than 7,000 miles of construction contracts that Caltrans currently has out to bid. Kind of overlays that over the 10,000 mile map, so you can really get a better idea of where and just the magnitude of of 70% of the network kind of going out for construction. So very exciting. We will also be talking about the small business and disabled veteran-owned business enterprise participation efforts that we've been making relative to these construction contracts, and really what the expectations are for them. And then finally, we will be reviewing the progress from this year and what to expect in the first 2 quarters of next year. Caltrans will be providing an update on the 2 types of construction contracts that they have out to bid currently, and their progress in pre-construction work, as well as some of their Dig Smart projects. The Golden State Net will provide updates on its efforts on business model components, on its go-to-market plan, its service and architecture work, and its work in assisting CDT with some systems procurements. And then PUC will be providing an update on its technical assistance and loan loss reserve fund, and then the federally and state funded programs relative to last mile. So with that's my, oh, I'm sorry. I think we have another slide to go that we put up talk through the. Can we go to the next one? Yeah, and this is the timeline that we've been showing committee members that we want to help remind everybody of the progress what has to happen in the time frame that we're working in. You'll see that what's changed here is really moving that focus to the December timeframe for getting all of our bids back for construction and lease options. And then January, where we need to take that information and go through an optimization process that as we move into the next year and make some key decisions about really what the architecture of the network will be. So with that, that's the end of my executive report up, and I'll turn it back to you, chair and members.
Thank you, Mr. Moreau. Are there any questions for any of the committee members? All right, great executive brief, and we'll go ahead and go into the actual project updates for the Department of Technology. Mr. Moreau.
All right, very good. So the first slide here, really want to excited to be able to put this up. We've talked about numbers in terms of the construction contracts, and I think this is a great illustration of just kind of showing where throughout the state those construction contracts are represented, right? So this is again a little over 70% of the network that would be provided for with these contracts, and so very, very excited to be able to have this up there, and we'll be working to as we move forward to provide this level of information in the months to come on our website. The other component we want to make sure we highlight is that the small business and disabled veteran-owned business enterprise participation that is expected. We have put out an addendum to identify 25% are required that bids submitted have a 25% goal and a plan for achieving 25% participation by small businesses, and as well as 3% by disadvantaged or by disabled veteran owned business enterprises. And so we held the first of several. There will be several forums with the contracting community yesterday. It was very well attended, and we'll be having another one the week after Thanksgiving. We really want to make sure that not only does all of California benefit from this project, but that California companies, and in particular the small businesses and veteran-owned businesses, are able to participate in the work of constructing 10,000 miles. So excited about that. And then just want to remind everybody that as we look at this 10,000 miles, you see where the construction contracts are. There will be this layer of where we end up doing leases. So that's the other side of it, is that as we put this thing together, we want to make sure that we're able to meet the needs of Californians, not only in terms of providing access for all 10,000 miles, but to the extent that we can provide connectivity sooner, we also want to take that into account. Next slide. And so Scott Adams is going to provide a brief update on the stakeholder outreach. Scott.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And good morning, Chair Bailey Cremens and the Middle Mile Advisory Committee members. I'm Scott Adams. I'm the Deputy Director for Broadband and Digital Literacy. It's my pleasure to present to you briefly on the stakeholder engagement efforts we've done since the last meeting. Next slide, please. So obviously, stakeholder and partner engagement is critical to align the state's Broadband for All efforts with those at the regional and local efforts to achieve Broadband for All throughout the state. And what we've presented here on the slide are really two categories of engagement. The first are large-scale convenings that we're hosting to engage the ecosystem of partners throughout the state and provide updates and information about the state's efforts, and really to seek alignment and input from our partners. Wanted to note that the top item was on October 24th, CDT and the California Public Utilities Commission hosted the Fall Broadband for All Summit, which also included a digital equity and BEAD planning kickoff. And as we've reported here before, the Department of Technology and CPUC are leveraging Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act broadband program funding dollars to support broadband for all. It was really critical to get out there and share with partners where we're going with those efforts. You'll also note that we were at the California Economic Summit presenting the same type of information, and also 2 other events with the Golden State Connect Authority and the Caltrans Broadband Industry Meeting, which brought together many different ISPs and service providers. The second grouping that you see here on this slide are really those individual meetings and consultations that are required beyond the group settings to work with local municipalities and partners to address any questions or local issues and concerns that they might have. And this is the strategy and approach that we are taking and will continue to take. And that concludes my update.
All right, thank you, Scott. And really important work there in terms of reaching out to the communities we're trying to, and the various entities that we're trying to connect to. So next slide. All right, so kind of looking back over this last year, I hope everybody will be familiar with some significant accomplishments. We've come out with identified 4,000 miles of existing infrastructure that has been mapped, that is, we see as potentially being able to be leased to the extent that we need to do that. And so very good information there. That's 40%, could be up to 40% of the network. We'll get more information on that when we get the bids back, but that's important information to have. And then we, through the great work of the Public Utilities Commission and Golden State Net, have put together the 10,000 mile system level design map, and that really is out there to reach all of those unserved and underserved communities. And so we're all now familiar with that map and working towards addressing those needs. In terms of construction, Caltrans has begun pre-construction on its initial 18 projects that we announced last November. As well as they have continued exploring Dig Smart opportunities, any transportation projects where we can add conduit or fiber or any components of the network as part of the project. And they're going to be providing a bit of an update on that a little later, but I believe 3 of those are already in progress. We have signed a procurement contract for fiber and conduit and vaults and related materials for a minimum of 3,000 miles of materials for our network, and which is going to be really helpful for meeting any supply shortages in the future. And we continue to work with our suppliers as we plan to ramp up to plan for delivery. This last summer, we worked with some of our partners to do an additional market sounding. That was, it was helpful. They reached out to, responded to our several hundred responses, email responses, survey responses from local jurisdictions, internet service providers. Conducted a couple dozen interviews, just to look at really the key needs. And some of the key findings there were that this system is going to need to be, as I think we're all planning for, it really needs to be, standard, high industry standards, right? This is going to, the system we're developing here we need to make sure that it meets all of the needs of the communities, and it can compete well in the marketplace. And we've also had a robust permitting process as we've worked with Caltrans and various state permitting agencies to bring the time frame down from what was initially estimated to average 17 months down to an average of 10 or 11 months. And we're continuing to work with our partners on implementing the programmatic permit process there. Caltrans began installing some conduit relative for the project this last September, and they're continuing to on some of the Dig Smart opportunities to look for places where they can do that. We also gone out for as noted previously, 7,000 miles of construction contract bid solicitations that we'll be hearing back in the end of December on. We've gone out with, you've heard us reference the RFI squared, looking for, again, where can we build with or otherwise lease from, work with industry partners in pulling together this full network. And then as noted previously, we held the first groundbreaking down in San Diego on State Route 67 last month. So where we were able to pull the first 500 feet of fiber into the conduit there. So making big steps as we move forward here. Next slide. All right. So looking ahead here, we talk about the state permitting process. We are working with a number of federal agencies. And I think we've estimated, or Caltrans has estimated, that roughly 30% of the highway system that this will be running along, that our network will be running along, is federally owned land. So we're working with our federal partners to find the quickest approach to getting the access to those lands and making sure that we are able to address the challenges of the federally owned land the same way we are with the state-owned land. We're also continuing to explore joint build agreements, and we expect to roll out with at least one of those very shortly, where it would be for a couple hundred miles of the network that would actually provide connectivity for some communities. So we're exploring several alternatives with partners. We expect to roll out with one soon. We also and we hope to roll out a few others in the weeks and months to come. So again, just trying to look for the best opportunities there where we can share the cost of construction. Putting cable, putting conduit in the ground is the most expensive part of the project. And so to the extent that somebody else is doing that and we can look for opportunities to share those costs, we want to maximize that to make sure that the funding that's been provided for this project can go as far as possible. We're continuing to work on finalizing a logistics coordinator contract. So that will be in the new year. We'll be coming out with finalizing that. We will also be working towards procurement of the active electronics. These are the devices that actually go inside the repeater huts and communicate the light signals through the fiber. So obviously a very key part of the system. And then we'll be working with Golden State Net and others on some other system procurement contracts that Golden State Net will be talking a bit about later. And then as we get bids for construction facility leases, we'll be moving forward with that optimization of the network. So while we've achieved a lot in the last year, we're going to, I think a lot of key decisions and key products will be coming out in the first 2 quarters of 2023. Next slide. All right, and I think with that, we will. I'll turn it back to the chair or to Caltrans.
Thank you, Mr. Monroe. First, I'd like to ask if any members have questions, and I see that Secretary Tong is first to raise her hand.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just want to take a moment to just really congratulate Department of Technology leadership, looking at that recap of 2022 and what's ahead. I don't know if people realize how much has been accomplished in a very much a project that started. They call it why you're building a plane while you're flying the plane, something like that. Sounds a little dangerous, but given the short time that it's allotted for this particular initiative, I really just applaud you all for doing so much in such a short time. And also I heard a lot of recognition to partnership from Caltrans, CPUC, and Golden State Net, and it really does take a village to move the ball forward, and these are big boulders are moving forward. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge all of your work in this.
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary. That's very nice of you. Any other comments or questions from the members? I also agree, changing the airplane's engine while you're flying is dangerous, but we have been able as a team to make this happen. So thank you. The next update is from the California Department of Transportation, and we are lucky enough to have Miss Janice Benton.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Chair Bailey Crimmins, committee members, and others from the public. My name is Janice Benton. I'm the Assistant Deputy Director over the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative for Caltrans, and we'll be providing an update on the progress being made for the Middle Mile build. Next slide. And I will add that over here in Caltrans, we call it, we're building a bridge as we walk on it. So whether you want to build a plane or build a bridge, that's what we're doing. We're doing it as we're using it as well. So Caltrans update reflects the milestone we recently reached with the Middle Mile Broadband Initiative. Over the past month, Caltrans has worked with CDT to advertise construction contracts for more than 70% of the network. This includes the 5 regional job order contracts for more than 5,200 miles mentioned at last month's MMAC meeting. Along with those JOCs, contracts to construct an additional nearly 1,900 miles using the construction manager general contractor method have also been advertised. Next slide. So not included in the miles being advertised through the JOC and CMGC contract delivery methods are the Dig Smart opportunities. As shared at previous MMAC meetings, Caltrans continually assesses opportunities to leverage the existing projects and implement Dig Smart opportunities. We have identified Dig Smart opportunities that cover approximately 620 miles of the Middle Mile network. You may have noted that the number of miles potentially delivered as a Dig Smart project has declined. With the Dig Smart projects, we are adding broadband components to already designed projects. And in determining whether to pursue these opportunities, we are mindful of a number of factors, including the timing and schedule impacts both of the broadband project and the transportation project already underway, as well as the cost. With Dig Smart, we may not be able to leverage economies of scale as we can do with the regional JOCs and the CMGC delivery methods. The Dig Smart projects have seen higher cost, and while we are looking at what is contributing to these, we are also awaiting the bid data coming in from the regional JOCs. That bid data will provide critical information and data on which to base decisions about the Dig Smart opportunities. And as with all of the broadband efforts, we work closely with the Department of Technology to evaluate what is the best path forward, and we are all mindful of being good stewards of the state resources. Next slide. So to reach the key milestone of advertising more than 70% of the network has taken significant work, and that is reflected in this slide. These charts reflect the progress made on pre-construction activities since the October MMAC meeting. And as mentioned in the past, the green shows the completed tasks, the blue shows the in progress, and the gray shows where preliminary project decisions are still to be made. Apologize, I'm getting over a cold. So next slide. So this slide breaks down the previous slide and shows by Caltrans district the miles assigned to projects and the advancement that has happened in each of the districts. As shown, there's been a lot of progress been made over the last month. Excuse me. All right, next slide. So we wanted to bring these forward just to show what projects are being out there advertised. So this represents the 5 regional JOCs that are currently advertised. And next month, the bids for, excuse me. Donna, you want to step in?
So Donna Barry will be stepping in just to give Janice a break on her voice. So Miss Barry.
Absolutely. Hopefully you guys can see me.
Yes, we can hear you and see you.
Sure. Trying to catch up with the slides. I apologize. So currently, this slide breaks down the previous slide and shows by Caltrans district the miles assigned to projects and advancement that has happened in each of the districts. As with the previous slide, sizable progress has been made over the last month. Not only do we see an increase in the miles and progress, which can be seen in blue, we are also seeing the amount of green or completed tasks. It should be noted that while the charts show the progress happening by district, it does not reflect the number of broadband miles. Broadband miles varies from district to district. The progress can also be seen in the contracts to construct the middle mile broadband network, or still on JOC, sorry, being advertised. To begin with, there are 5 regional job order contracts, JOCs, currently out for bid. And next month, at the end of December, the bids for approximately 5,200 miles of the broadband network will be open, allowing Caltrans to provide cost data to CDT in January. Next slide, please. Building on the regional JOCs, there are also contracts being advertised to construct segments of the network using the Construction Manager General Contract Delivery Method, or CMGC. This slide shows not only 5 CMGC contracts currently being advertised, but also the remaining network miles, approximately 2,000, that we are working with CDT to advertise. Additionally, and what is not listed here are 4 CMGC contracts where the bidding has closed. You may recall from earlier MMAC meetings that the first of these contracts in San Diego and San Bernardino counties were advertised over the summer. We are moving into the final phases of the CMGC process and anticipate beginning to award these contracts in early 2023. As we bring the CMGC contractors on board, will be able to gain further insight on potential costs for the network build. This is cost data that will be shared with CDT and can feed into their cost models. Next slide, please. Last month, we saw progress being made in Southern California, and this slide reflects the progress being made in the northern portion of the state. Here you can see a crew installing conduit in Wairika along State Route 3. In closing, Caltrans continues to take the necessary steps to move projects forward and have contracts out with the commitment to have bid data to CDT in January. Last month, Caltrans advertised 5 regional job order contracts that include approximately 5,200 miles in the middle mile broadband network. Since July, Caltrans has advertised 9 CMGC projects covering more than 1,900 miles, with an additional 2,000 miles being packaged for advertisement. As we look ahead to the new year, we look forward to issuing the work orders and work packages that will translate into construction underway and progress we can share with the committee. Caltrans remains committed to this broadband initiative and will collaborate with the Department of Technology to address challenges and continue to find opportunities to accelerate the deployment of the middle mile network. This concludes Caltrans update. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Benton, and Ms. Berry and Ms. Benton for a wonderful update. Do I have any questions for any of the committee members? Secretary Tong.
Yes, I just amazed of seeing all of the progress, and I just also wanted to do a shout out to specifically Ms. Benton, and so sorry that you're not feeling well today. And also Ms. Berry for stepping in and assist with that. I had the privilege to meet in person with both of you, and firsthand seeing the partnership that it's undertaking with Department of Technology, and then also all the transformation that has been taking inside of Caltrans from the update that I'm hearing, seeing the number of contracts that are on the street in this year. From very early when I was still with Department of Technology last year, that I remember the days where contract were in the 2024s or the late of 2023. now that seeing, majority of them, all of them out, not only out, but potentially bid open at the end of this year is just simply amazing. So I just wanted to give a shout out for all of your work and just to really appreciate that continued partnership and looking forward for so many great things to come.
Thank you, Secretary. I have my hand up, so I guess I'll call on myself. So I also want to just say that the Caltrans has been a wonderful business partner, and we have been making significant progress. In addition, and maybe Ms. Berry or Ms. Benton, just questions. I know there was recently on the 17th, which is just yesterday, and then we have another one on the 29th. There's been a lot of outreach and engagement that we're trying to do in relation to small business and DVBE. And I didn't know if you had any highlights that you could maybe share with the public and the committee members.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and thank you, Ms. Berry, for stepping in. So the small business, we have done 2 outreach events initially. Goodness sakes. All right, Donna, it's all you.
Sure. So we've done a couple outreach events. We're continuing to make sure that we are getting the message out as much as possible to show the goals that we have on the projects. Within the meeting yesterday that we had, the first one in this next round, we got great feedback, and we're looking to working with the small business community moving forward.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. And it sounds like the 29th, there will be another opportunity, another workshop. And so we will be making sure, and if anybody has information, we can always put it in the chat for any of the members. So any of the public that is interested in attending that event.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. I see Assemblymember Wood.
Yes, thank you. And just want to say thank you to everyone. This is a sign of great progress, and I'm very excited about what we're seeing here. And I'm just going to ask or just make a comment. I hope that this kind of effort doesn't just end when the broadband projects end, that we can continue this kind of progress that happens quickly and more efficiently going forward, not just here, but in other arenas as well. The amount of time that happens in prompt planning and permitting and so on is really, really challenging. And I'm going to give you an example, which is unrelated here, but I was on a project on a watershed restoration project, and there was money, emergency drought relief money that came up, and there was a permitting efficiency process that went into place that allowed this project to be completed this year and eliminated 2 years of challenges that the applicant would have faced. And this is a watershed restoration. So there's opportunities throughout government, I think, to be more efficient and move forward on projects that are really important. And I hope it doesn't just end in 2026. I hope this is an opportunity to go forward and be more efficient for everyone in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblymember Wood. Any other comments or questions? All right, we'll go ahead and get an update from Golden State Net, our third-party administrator, Mr. Tony Naughton.
Sorry, can you hear me now? I think my microphone and camera have been blocked by the moderator. I'm not sure if you can see me or not.
Yeah, Mr. Naughton, we can hear you. We cannot see you, so we can.
Now it's been unblocked.
There
you go.
Okay.
There you go. Thanks. Good morning, everyone. Tony Naughton with Golden State Net, here to provide the progress update for this month's MMAC meeting. If you can go to the next slide, please. So we've been doing quite a bit of work over the last several weeks, even since before the last MMAC meeting, focusing on projected revenue in the business model for the MMBI network, and in particular, building assumptions around the modeling for revenue projections. And these would be not just for the next 5 years, but well beyond the duration of this network's operation. It is an iterative process, continuing to refine the model for the revenue projections. And that will go on for quite a bit into the coming year as well. Part of the process also involves providing product descriptions for virtually every type of service or product offering that will be sold to customers of this network as an open access network. So that, of course, is product offerings for last mile providers, particularly those in areas that are unserved or underserved, as well as other customers who will utilize the open access nature of the network, whether they be enterprise customers or government agency customers as well. We're also continuing to refine and review the operating expenses going forward, which is an important aspect of this. We want the network as much as possible to be self-sustaining for long-term cost of operation and maintenance. Next slide, please. There we go. An important part of this, which accompanies the business model, is a go-to-market plan. We have submitted a what I'll call a foundational version of the go-to-market plan, which initially focuses on product management, marketing, and sales, as we're showing here. The product management piece is of particular importance, where those product and service definitions are matched up to what is determined to be requested or required or needed in the marketplace, pricing refinement around those products, as well as projections in a product management sense of penetration of those services and products into the markets being served. The marketing plan, of course, focuses on the messaging and promotional activities to create awareness and interest in purchasing services from the network. And the marketing efforts will really begin in earnest in the coming year, well before the actual services are offered and available on the network. The sales plan and pieces of the process involving the sales of services to customers has also been initially defined. We will have a very, what I would call carrier-looking, telecommunications ISP-looking type of sales organization in order to build relationships with customers, sell those services, and continue to work with the customers as more services, bandwidth, dark fiber, those kinds of offerings are needed by those customers over time. The whole entire go-to-market plan also includes an execution timetable and staffing plan, generally speaking. Those are not yet completed in the plan, as they are interdependent on some of the other aspects that we're talking about, not just from the GSN standpoint, but also availability of the network once segments of it are turned up for production readiness. The go-to-market plan will, of course, be an iterative process, as will the business plan for the network. If we can go to the next slide, please. We've talked quite a bit in the last several meetings about work we're doing with our interagency partners, CDT and Caltrans in particular, on the infrastructure and services architecture work. We've mentioned over the last several meetings quite a bit of work that's gone into location and development processes around the retransmission huts, and most of that work we're engaging in with Caltrans along with CDT. That work now, as far as defining locations that have been approved for a hut location, is nearly 80% complete, which is significant progress and something we appreciate Caltrans' efforts on as well. We continue to work closely with CDT to refine and make minor changes to the GIS mapping platform that all the interagency partners are using in this program. And of course, the two main guiding documents we've talked about in the past, the system layer design, as well as the program plan, those continue to be refined and edited as time goes on as well. Again, the system layer design is really a pronouncement of operating policies, generally speaking, and the program plan itself is the playbook, if you will, on execution and operation of the network going forward. An additional amount of work, significant work, has been done to begin really to create the approach and processes that will be used for the Network Operations Center, the NOC, as we refer to it. This is really the brain of the network. The NOC is responsible for 7/24, 365 monitoring of all connectivity coming in and out of the network. It really is the place where any sort of monitoring, remediation, or planned or scheduled maintenance, any activity relating to service or operational support of the network commences at the Network Operations Center through a ticketing process that will be used. You can go to the next slide, please. So as we've talked about in the past, and Mark Monroe mentioned this earlier, we've been working closely with CDT. An RFP for the fiber management system has been issued and will be received from respondents by the end of this year. Again, the fiber management system is a key essential platform which uses GIS mapping to project, plan, document actual fiber build in the field, as well as capture and archive the as-built mapping once the system is completed. It's interesting because it's an interactive system, meaning players and participants, managers, certain staffers, not just from GSN and CDT, but also from Caltrans and some of the contractors involved, I should say, will also have access privileges, even from the field, as the documentation and mapping information that the fiber management system provides will be available in real time to support the development activity as it's actually taking place. I've mentioned before the inventory management system. That will be key as well, and a request for proposals will be coming on that one next. That will be after the first of this coming year. Other systems I've mentioned will also then work towards procurement in the coming year for customer relationship management, billing, and other important applications related to the operation of the network. As Mark also mentioned, continue to work closely on procurement of active electronics. These are the switches and routers that actually receive and send traffic across the network. From last mile to core locations where traffic is exchanged with the rest of the global internet or other carriers for other applications. Again, this is an open access network, so it will be providing more than just internet access. The active electronics process is key. The bill of materials are complex, so that we need to work closely in the procurement to make sure they are completely accurate. And as I've said before, also work closely with CDT to make sure we're getting the best pricing possible on all of that electronic gear. Next slide, please. Oh, there we go. That's thank you. That's the end of my presentation. Are there any questions I can answer here today?
Thank you, Mr. Naughton. Any committee members that have questions? Secretary Tong.
I'm just on a roll because this is our last meeting for the year. Just again, we never take enough moment to appreciate, the work that our team have put in. So I also want to do a special call out to Mr. Naughton, and I say Mr. Hunsinger is on this panel along with the team and also Mr. Hutchins along the team from GSN. It's one of those, again, coming together quickly, lots of different thought at the beginning, but seeing how things have really progressed and looking at the continued work that's going to be ahead is exciting and scary, quite frankly, looking at the market viability and the marketing plan going out. It almost makes this network become a lot more real than, when we first had a concept about this, a year ago. So I'm really, really just excited to see how this is going and really appreciate Golden State Net's work and continue to help push this ahead, especially on the marketing front of things. So thank you so much.
We appreciate your remarks, Secretary Tong, and we have continued to build a strong working relationship with CDT, Caltrans, and other interagency partners. And the work has been steady and, if not feverish, over the last 14 months. We've all been putting a lot of time and effort into this. What I was going to say is the real work, once we really start working towards construction and activation of network segments, that's going to require even more continuous collaboration between the agencies. We look forward to that, and we appreciate the opportunity for many of us involved in this effort, this type of effort. And I'm going to say that's particularly true of our colleagues at Scenic, who is our parent company, the fulfillment of a dream, if you will, to provide high quality last mile bandwidth, broadband services to the many, many homes in California that have either been unserved entirely or underserved. That's been a mission for many years, for many who have been involved in internetworking, such as myself, others on my team, such as those you've mentioned, as well as our colleagues at Scenic. And this is a great opportunity to achieve that. We appreciate the involvement in the opportunity, and as well as the growing partnerships we have with the interagency partners. Ron Hutchins, I saw you come on camera there for a moment. Did you have a remark you wanted to mention?
I was just going to say thank you for the recognition. That's appreciated.
Yes, very much, very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Secretary, for your comments. I'd also like to recognize Chief Deputy Director Michael Keever is joined us for Director Tony Tavares from Caltrans. So thank you, Mr. Keever. We will go ahead and go to, I don't see any other questions for Mr. Naughton. Thank you very much for your partnership and making 2022 a very progressive and eventful year. We couldn't have done it without you. So thank you very much. We're going to go ahead and shift to the California Public Utilities Commission. We have Mr. Jonathan Lakritz, who's going to provide an update.
Thank you, Chair Bailey Crimmins. Good morning, committee members and members of the public. I'm Jonathan Lakritz with the Broadband Infrastructure Branch in the California Public Utilities Commission's Communication Division. I'll be providing an update on a number of the CPUC's last mile broadband initiatives. Next slide, please. This slide provides a summary of the local agency technical assistance grant program. It is similar to previous slides. The $50 million grant program for local agencies and tribes provides grants of up to $1 million to plan for and start broadband infrastructure projects to serve their communities. A broad range of local agencies are eligible, and grant funds can be used to form joint power authorities and co-ops. Activities that are eligible for funding include, but are not limited to, environmental feasibility and engineering design studies, needs assessments, and broadband plans. From August through the first half of November, the CPUC has received a total of 84 applications that requested nearly $37 million. They are from 41 county governments, 37 cities and towns, 5 joint power authorities, 1 local school district, and 1 tribe. As of this week, we have approved 52 applications with the grant awards totaling almost $24 million. We are currently in the process of reviewing the 32 additional applications, which have requested approximately $13.2 million of grant funding. The map on the right is a snapshot that highlights each county the CPUC has received an application from either a county and/or local agencies. The November window remains open until the end of the month, and potential applicants are welcome to apply at any time. We anticipate approving additional applications before the end of the year. The CPUC continues to encourage local agencies and their partners to apply for technical assistance grants. And for anyone who's interested in applying, please don't hesitate to reach out with questions. Next slide, please. The Loan Loss Reserve Program is another key component of to provide funding for last mile infrastructure. The Loan Loss Reserve Program is a $750 million fund that supports local governments, nonprofits, and tribes in their pursuit of building broadband infrastructure. The premise of the Loan Loss Reserve Fund is that public broadband infrastructure can be cost-effective and revenue-generating solution to provide high-speed and reliable service in areas with limited or no broadband access. It may also lower costs and improve customer service. The fund provides these entities the authority to participate in CPUC programs and offers credit enhancements to help them secure private financing to construct and operate new public high-speed broadband networks. The program also includes providing collateral to enable better borrowing rates and terms and allowing entities to establish a funding reserve for paying down the principal and interest on bond issuances. We issued a staff proposal in September, and the CPUC received comments in October. On November 8th, the CPUC hosted a public meeting to receive additional input on the staff proposal. This meeting featured an overview of the proposal, a Q&A segment, and opportunity for further public comment. Staff's overview from this meeting, as well as other information, is available on the CPUC's Loan Loss Reserve Fund webpage. A proposed decision should be issued sometime in the first quarter of 2023, and all parties will have the chance to provide comments prior to the commission vote. Any questions about the Loan Loss Reserve Fund can be directed to broadband.loanloss@cpuc.ca.gov. Next slide, please. This slide provides a further update on the grant opportunities available through a number of the California Advanced Services Fund accounts. These grants fund activities that support the last mile broadband infrastructure. The broadband adoption grants fund projects by public entities and community-based organizations to promote digital literacy and broadband access. As of November 2022, 74 projects have been awarded $5 million via the CPUC's ministerial process. There are projects in 19 counties, including 32 projects in Northern California, 6 projects in Central California, and 34 projects in Southern California. The CPUC intends to act on the remaining grant applications before December 31st, 2022. Grants from the Rural and Urban Regional Consortia account help regional organizations to develop broadband projects and complete the application process. We received 15 applications requesting a total of $11.6 million and to serve 50 counties. The grant window is closed and we're reviewing these applications. All 15 of the grant applications will be considered into one resolution, and we anticipate issuing the draft resolution next month for public comment, and the commission will consider it at the January 2023 voting meeting. The third opportunity is for grants to build broadband networks offering free broadband services for residents of low-income communities. We have received 19 applications for projects in public housing facilities requesting a total of $1.4 million. At the December 1st, 2022 meeting, the commission is scheduled to vote on a draft resolution approving these 19 public housing infrastructure grants. Next slide, please. This slide provides a snapshot of the CPUC's activities to implement last mile broadband initiative programs, and I'll briefly highlight a few things. For the Broadband Technical Assistance Program on the left, applications continue to be accepted monthly. For the Loan Loss Reserve Program, the next activity will be issuance of a proposed decision in the first quarter of 2023. The next initiative is the Last Mile Initiative for Federal Funding Account. This program will award grants to fund last mile broadband infrastructure projects in every county. We are developing priority areas and we'll publicly releasing those areas prior to accepting applications. Watch for the release of priority areas soon. We anticipate publicly releasing the priority areas before the end of the year. On the right, you can see the suite of CASF programs. As I just mentioned, the CPUC will continue to make awards under the Adoption Consortium and Public Housing accounts. At yesterday's commission meeting, the commission adopted a decision modifying the CASF infrastructure account application process. And applications continue to be accepted for adoption of public housing accounts. The current window for both of those accounts closes on January 1st, 2023. More information on these grant opportunities are available on the CPUC public web pages, links for which are on these slides. We're also happy to respond to inquiries and provide contacts for each of the grant programs discussed today to those who email statewidebroadband@cpuc.ca.gov. This concludes my remarks, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lackeritz. A great presentation. Also, a lot of progress over the past year. Any questions or comments from? Of course. First up is Secretary Tong. She has a few comments she'd like to make.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And Chair, I want to let you know, I believe Ms. Miller is in the audience, so probably need to pull her up as a panelist. But
great, thank you.
I think this specific comment to, I'll say to President Reno and Mr. Lackers for the wonderful work that CPUC have accomplished. And I know at the beginning, it was a lot of activity working together on developing a map. And then after that, sort of separated for good reason that, CPUC continued to focusing on the last mile while rest of the team focusing on middle mile. But I feel like that converging is going to come back again because the very fact that the middle mile would not work without last mile. And so I just, once again, really, appreciate all of the collaboration. And President Reno, this is got to be one of those like a proud parent moment. I know you and I and probably Assembly Member Wood, I think, I'm trying to look at other panel, of course, and Mr. Adam and Mr. Monroe are one of the first few, and of course, Ms. Miller, but this is just tremendous progress.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary. And President Reynolds.
So is it fair for me to weigh in at the end and echo all of Secretary Tong's comments throughout, just for CDT's work, for Caltrans work and GoldenState.net, and then also PUC staff. It just is really incredible to have this meeting, as Secretary Tong noted, last meeting of the year, and hear all of the progress. So I really did want to add my appreciation to everyone. And it was really apparent from all of the presentations today that a lot of just really incredible and careful work has gone into the activities of the last year. And then the coordination has just been extraordinary. And so I wanted to commend everyone on working together, working through issues, and really making progress. So thank you.
Thank you, President Reynolds. Oh, and Secretary Tong, did you want it back? Okay, all right.
One more, sorry, one more thing. I see Ms. Miller is here, and then also Mr. Keever, talking about the group that really have hung together from the very, very beginning, and those that have consistently joined. Just thank you, continue for the just relentless support through good times and challenging time. And we all know at the beginning, as any teams coming together, there is are forming, and then there's a little bit of churning, and then when things becomes all working together and excelling. So I just wanted to acknowledge our business partner, but I also want to do a special call out to Assembly Member Jen Wood. I believe he's probably one of the members that have never missed a single meeting, and also made a special trip to the groundbreaking event down in San Diego. And I know his staffer and also the committee staffer, Emilio, probably in the audience, have been a great supporter and facilitator in communicating or channel of communication of what the administration is working on, as well as what the legislature is looking forward to. So I think that level of a partnership, it's also very, very heartwarming. I am using that word specifically because seldom you see this type of partnership taking place. And this project continued to prove that we all have a common goal, and people serving a different role does not need to be, adversary by any means with each other, but is really focusing on this common goal and play our individual roles to make things happen. And I think that is what what public servants are all about. So I just wanted to make that an acknowledgement.
Thank you, Secretary Tong. And as Assembly Member Wood had mentioned, this is an opportunity for us. We came together, but that this doesn't end just with this project, right? That we are, as public servants, much stronger together than we are necessarily individually. So wonderful, very, very nice, heartfelt comments. Any other comments or questions from any of the members before we go to public comment? All right, I see none, so we'll go ahead and move to public comment. Mr. Pizzabella, will you please provide public comment guidelines and begin the process?
Yes. In order to ensure everyone who wishes to make public comment has the opportunity to do so, we respectfully request one person per entity and 2 minutes per person. The order of public comment will be online public comment submissions prior to the meeting, Zoom hands raised, and phone hands raised via *9. We have received one public comment prior to the meeting, so we will start with Scott Pullman, if he would like to unmute and share. And seeing,
Okay, I think I'm unmuted.
there you
now.
go, Scott. Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, this is just a quick comment / question for Director Monroe regarding the procurement of active electronics. Will there be more information coming out in the near term about how that procurement will take place? Will there be an RFP? Will there be other public vehicles that will be used, and just how that procurement will go? Thank you.
Scott, thank you for the question. We typically, as public comment, we take the questions and then post them for everyone to see. And so, Mr. Prisabella, do you want to quickly just explain the process so that we can make sure that Mr. Pullman's question gets answered in the appropriate forum?
Sure, and we do have, Mr. Pullman, your question in email, and so we will appropriately respond when we have the information for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next hand I see and available to unmute is Georgia.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. My name is Georgia Savage, and I work for Oakland Undivided. We just want to thank you for your continuous engagement with our city. We're really excited for this partnership moving forward. My question is about the middle mile policy surrounding municipal fibers. We're really excited to hear that the state is putting protections in place to prevent any one commercial entity from co-opting this public investment. Oakland does propose a tiered system in which tier 1 would be free or at cost for public municipal fiber, as well as nonprofit use. Tier 2 would be discounted pricing for commercial entities like innovative wireless ISPs or co-ops if they provide higher speed at lower cost, some portion of the total clients receiving the service for free, and or committing to leveraging strands to connect the most unconnected communities. Tier 3 would then be the highest rates for commercial companies. So our question would just be, will there be a tiered system like this? And then when should we expect those specifics for pricing differentials to prevent the network from being monopolized? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Georgia. We'll take that question and follow the same process. Thank you very much for participating today.
I'm going to pause a moment to see if there are any additional hands raised or phones hands raised. Oh, looks like we do have one more hand raised from Judy. Judy, you can now unmute.
Hi, my name is Judy Horton, and I represent a small underground construction company in Southern California. And I just want to find out, is it too late to register for the 29th, the event on the 29th?
So that, thank you very much, Judy, and we'll make sure that there's additional information. I realize that chat's not enabled, but we will be, Prisabella, will you please, that's the same process. When we get everyone's information, make sure that they're aware how to register to the 29th event.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And all the resources from today's meeting and emails will be shared with appropriate registrants of this meeting and our stakeholder base.
Thank you.
Director, that seems to be the last public comment, and I will pass it back to you.
Thank you very much. I would now like to open it up again once more to the members of the committee if they have any final comments before we, how did I not know? Any last comments before we end today's session? And Secretary Tong.
Chair, thank you. I promise that the meeting in the new year, I will be a lot quieter. But I again, with the public comment and also take an opportunity to thank a lot of public participation. This is one of the meetings that I've consistently attended that have more than 100 attendees over a Zoom. And on a Friday, And it just shows the interest and engagement from our public stakeholder, industry, and Oakland Undivided is one of those I have heard and continue to be hearing in their participation throughout this entire process. So just wanted to do a special shout out to not only the industry, but the local entities who are advocating for their local participation and all of that. It again, just can't emphasize enough that this is historic in so many ways, that it is the digital highway that is going to continue to elevate the state of California for many, many years to come. And it does take a village and, down to the individual. So industry, local government, state government, federal government, and all our partners. This is really, how do I say it? Without this level of engagement, it would be very difficult to close the digital divide. And we want to stay true to that mission and really have broadband for all. And so for the 40 million Californians that we have in California. So I just wanted to really take a moment to acknowledge all the patience, all of the great input, and all of the understanding as we collectively working through this process. All right, I'm good.
Do any other members want to make any final comments? All right. Yes, Mr. Keever.
Yeah. So apologies for joining late. Ms. Miller and I were in another board meeting, public board meeting. So I just want to express my appreciation. Very much like Secretary Tong mentioned there, it's been full of ups and downs and adventure, but it has been great to see the progress that we've made together. I also want to acknowledge we have a lot of hard work ahead of us. I think Tony talked about that, but we have certainly set that foundation. So I look forward to working with you all, continuing through this. We may not have a board meeting, but we'll still be working together all through this. And hopefully we'll come together in January and we'll have a really good picture of where we're heading next. So look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keever. All right, do I see any other hands? At this point, I do not. So I just want to thank all of the committee members, the presenters today, all the hard work of even people that are not here. We know that as Secretary Tong, it takes a community, it takes a village. We have a lot of hundreds of team members, construction workers, vendors. It takes all of us to make this happen. And so even though you may not have presented, you are here in spirit. So I want to thank all of you for their contributions today and for the past year and where we're going. I also, since it is our last one before the holiday season, I just want to wish everyone a safe and joyous holiday season as we kind of finish up the year. And as a reminder, our next meeting is Friday, January 20th, 2023 from 10 to 11:30 a.m. And with that, we will adjourn today's meeting. Thank you.